We want to bring in now former FBI agent and CIA officer Tracy Walder. Tracy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
And what a terrible story. And I think, Tracy, one of the things that is so striking here is that Stalking seemed to do everything right. She kept copious records of all of this. She reported it to police, actively obtaining that no contact restraining order. Why was it all ultimately not enough to prevent these murders?
So, Natasha, you're absolutely correct. I believe she did really everything right. She filed that no contact order. And while I do understand that it was probably difficult to serve as you're crossing state lines since he's a long haul trucker, she really had done an incredible job of documenting all of these attempts by him to basically harass her. But I think, to put it very bluntly, the problem is a restraining order, protective order, those kinds of things. Those are a piece of paper, and then they do allow police a broad range to be able to actually act if those are violated, if those orders are violated. But the reality is someone who is bent on doing something like this does not necessarily care about that piece of paper. And I think that that's what happened here.
Yeah, and police saying that the nature of his job, him being a long distance trucker, made it very difficult for them to surveil him, to find him, to serve that protection order. What is your read on this? Could police have done more here?
You know, I think that that's an excellent question, and I've been thinking about that. I think of short of involving the FBI, who typically does not become involved in domestic violence kind of cases and stalking cases, I'm not certain how much more they could have done. In terms of surveilling him and those kinds of things, that would have taken notifying other police departments and knowing his trucking schedule. One of the things they could have done was gone to his employer, the trucking company that hired him, and found out what his schedule was. But they would need a warrant to be able to do that. And I'm not certain that that warrant was ever applied for. If it was and they received it, then that could have been a potential gold mine for them to be able to stop this.
And reports indicate that the attacker leaves behind a 7-year-old daughter and ex-wife, and that there is a history of domestic violence with that ex-wife as well. How common is it for violence against women to be a pattern, to be habitual? And was that a red flag that should have been acted on before something like this happened?
So the reality is it depends. It depends on what his ex-wife had done to document the abuse that she suffered at his hands. I'm not surprised that he engaged in that kind of behavior, but I think that the reality is if that was not documented, that may not have been followed up on. I mean, look, we know about 13.5 women in the United States are stalked every single year, and only about 20% of those that unfortunately are killed by their stalkers have these protective orders. And so it really depends on what documentation was filed.
And I want to speak to these statistics we're looking at. I mean, stalking cases not uncommon. We were just seeing 1 in 6 women have experienced this. 1 in 17 men have experienced stalking in their lifetimes. I know both you and I know what it's like to receive unwanted, persistent messages from strangers. So let's say that this does escalate to the point where you feel you need to notify police, but you still feel unsafe. Maybe you get a piece of paper, but you know ultimately that is not going to protect you. Is there any recourse here? What more can an individual do to stay safe?
So thank you for asking that question, because I think one of the things, particularly when you have a stalker, is taking back ownership, to yourself, having some control over the situation yourself. And a lot of states do have address confidentiality programs. I really recommend that folks look into those in their state if they feel that they are being stalked or are the victim of domestic abuse. It's very helpful in terms of concealing your address and making it very difficult for people to find. Another thing you can do is something as simple as changing your phone number to an unknown number. I think that's something that's very good to do. Also, another thing is to notify your neighbors. I know sometimes that can be a difficult conversation to have, but they can also be folks who can alert you to any suspicious activity that's going on in your neighborhood. So I think that those are 3 things that someone can do to really make themselves feel a bit more safe in this very difficult situation that they're in.
Yeah, and we know that it was a neighbor's house that the mother who survived ultimately ran to and called 911 from. But such a tragedy. We appreciate your insight and time as always. Tracy Walder, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.